Casey Phillips here with senior writer and editor Scott Smith, and we are in the Steelers Stadium right now for our joint practice. We've been in Pittsburgh this week, but the Bucs practiced by themselves yesterday out at Carnegie Mellon, and now we are here in the actual stadium, which we have learned is very bright with all these yellow chairs. It's a very sunny stadium.
And it's a sunny day, unlike yesterday.
It's a very sunny day out here. Yeah, yesterday it was kind of rainy, drizzly the whole time, so it actually feels a little bit like Florida out here. We feel right at home.
It's hot.
It is very hot and toasty. So yesterday's practice was a little different venue, just by ourselves. So what did we learn from that one being up here? Things about either injuries or just other things that stood out at practice?
Well, I think when a team goes away like this, especially one that, like most teams now, they have their training camp in their facilities, right? Used to be almost all the teams went away for 3 weeks to some college campus or something, and it was thought to be a bonding experience. Where we have a pretty tight-knit team as it is, but they could get a little, more bonded.
Right.
Build some chemistry on and off the field.
I saw some intense games of Catan happening.
There you go.
There you go. There's a good example of it.
So, yeah, it's, they're away from their families. They're isolated in a team hotel for most of the day. So I think they see this as a chance to bond a little bit, but the work on the field is the most important part, of course. One of the things that I noticed was right at the beginning of the team drills yesterday, our offense came out looking really sharp.
That's
like
great.
5 great plays in a row, a really good Bucky Irvin run. I know they don't tackle, but this one looked like it would have been broken big.
Right.
Couple really nice, sharp passes to Emeka Egbuka and Jalen McMillan. It was just now it evened out over the course, and but it was a good start for our first team offense. So hopefully we see that carry over if they play on Saturday night. And then finally, maybe a less happy note was Antoine Winfield wasn't practicing, which Coach Bowles said afterwards was a lower leg injury. Now we see him out here moving around, throwing the ball around. Obviously, you're hoping that what it is, hey, if there's anything a little bit.
Yeah, you're going to be cautious.
Let's be cautious. It's more important that he's ready for week 1 of the regular season. But that's a storyline to follow. He is, again, not practicing today. And actually, we're a little thin in the secondary because a lot of guys, Benjamin Morrison still isn't practicing. Looks like Lawrence Funderburk is out, Josh Hayes. I think I'm missing a couple. So we're a little banged up in the secondary right now.
Yeah, that's going to be, and that's a group where you kind of need some numbers in these practices and these games, but it is going to give a lot of the younger guys some work.
Yeah.
Did you mention Roman Parodi at all?
Yeah, Roman Parodi. He's the one who had to pick 6 in the game, but he hasn't practiced all week.
Yep, so that's going to be tough to see some guys get, but there are some guys that are back that weren't involved maybe last week, and you and I right before practice were talking about some of the ones that we're excited to watch. So for you, what are the people that you're excited to watch, both for this joint practice, for the preseason game, and those can be a little different. Of the practice, of course, you want to see a little bit more work from your starters because that's the main time you're going to get to see them right now.
Exactly, and I noted before the practice started today, that there was tweets going out that Mike Tomlin, the Steelers head coach, listed a bunch of starters that are not going to play on Saturday night. And a couple names included in that are T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith. They're a really good edge rushing duo. So how much do you think those two guys want to put on a show today, especially against our starters? So there's at least one near the end of practice. I think one other time when we're going to see some one-on-ones with the pass rushers, the offensive linemen and defensive linemen. I think that's going to be one of the highlights of practice, and just see how Luke Edeke and Charlie Heck are standing up against those two guys and some of the others. Emeka Egbuka said it was going to be fun to go against Jalen Ramsey.
Love that attitude.
He said he's an all-pro, so a lot of nice things about him, but it's going to be fun. And you look at the Steelers cornerback group, and it's Jalen Ramsey now in the nickel, the wily veteran Darius Slay, and a nice young player in Joey Porter Jr. So I think all of our receivers are going to get good action here and in the game.
That's going to be interesting. And so then looking at the game, knowing, all right, so maybe you're not going to see as much of the starters, that looking at the backups, who are some of the ones you feel like this game could be really important for? I know that one of the ones we mentioned before was Tez Johnson because of the fact that he was hurt before, that this is someone you and I are excited to watch.
Tez Johnson just returned to practice on Monday, and he's practicing today, so we hope he sees some action, not only on offense, but also in the return game, because that's a guy I think a lot of us are thinking, even though he's a 7th-round draft pick, he's got a good shot at making the 53-man roster, but it's no lock, right? So he needs to show us what he can do when the lights come on, and I think that he will. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but he's been impressive on the practice field, so that's a good choice on your part. And then if we do see our starters go, it'll be interesting to see the edge rushers for us, like Hassan Reddick, Yaya Diaby, Anthony Nelson, whoever else we got going there, because they have an interesting tackle situation for Pittsburgh in which they lost their left tackle, Dan Moore, in free agency. They moved their right tackle, who was a former first-round pick, Broderick Jones, to left tackle, and now their first-round pick from a year ago, Troy Fatuanu, is supposed to start at right tackle, but he missed one game last year due to injury. So their tackle situation is kind of a big question mark, and it'd be nice to see if we can test them.
Yeah, that's going to be – so it sounds like kind of their edge and our edge both in this practice and in the game is going to be a really interesting thing to watch.
Sure.
I know also a lot of people have wondered about the quarterback situation of preseason games, how much work everybody's getting, and when and if we might see Teddy Bridgewater as well. So do you feel like there's a chance we see him Saturday? Is it going to be maybe dependent on what goes on in practice today?
Yeah, check back with us after practice. Go to Buccaneers.com, because Coach Bowles said after yesterday's practice that he would tell us after today's practice if Teddy's going to play in the game. So we'll write that up for you.
Yeah, basically waiting to see how much work he gets today in the grasp of the offense.
Exactly.
Which is fair. That's
so,
a whole lot.
I think the bigger question mark that we're hoping to hear from Coach Bowles after the practices, are the starters in general going to play this week?
What have we seen in years past of how he tends, since Coach Bowles has gotten here, how he handles the different preseason games, and particularly the second one of how much or little starters play? And do you think it'll be a little bit of status quo in that sense of compared to what he's done in years past, or is there something maybe a little different this year?
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to get the official report after practice today, but we have been speculating that the starters would probably go in this game for however long they go. But the pattern before was no starters in the first two games, and then they got their shot in the third game, since there's no more fourth game anymore. And that's what they did last year. Mm-hmm. However, our third game this year is against Buffalo, who are also going to play in the regular season. So there's going to be a premium, I'm sure, in that game of not putting anything important on tape.
Yeah.
So if you're going to let your starters go, that's why we're speculating, and we'll find out later if he's going to do that in this game now. And Todd Bowles has previously said that he's not going to play his starters in more games in the preseason, but they're going to stay in there longer. Because last year, Baker Mayfield and the starting unit went out in the third game, had a perfect first drive. Yeah. Almost every play was a success.
Check.
Scored a touchdown. They're like, okay, that's enough for the night.
Yeah.
So maybe it'll, again, depend on how well they do early as to how long they stay in the game.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us here at the Steelers Stadium. We're about to go watch this joint practice. So, again, like Scott said, it's going to be a lot more information and news coming out at the end of this practice once Todd Bowles has seen how much work everybody gets in. So stay tuned to Buccaneers.com for that.